Hello and welcome to the Uncapped Podcast, brought to you by Roasthouse Pub, one of Frederick's finest craft beer and culinary destinations, where great people come to drink amazing beer. Visit them to track their taps and menu at roasthousepub.com or download the digital Pour app to track what's on tap. This is episode 69 of the Uncapped Podcast, and I'm your host, Chris Sands. This week, we have for being also one of the newest breweries in the area, has probably been one of my most requested breweries. I repeatedly get asked, when are you going to have Midnight Run on? So I didn't really want to have you guys on, but just so I stop getting asked.
We were hesitant to come on too. So
I know. The gentleman from Midnight Run Brewing.
Loosely
Using that term. Brent Turner and Richard Cauble, the co-founders.
Howdy.
Cheers.
How's everybody doing?
That would be Brent talking.
Yeah, sorry, I'm Brent.
Richard.
Howdy.
You may want to get a little closer.
Howdy.
That's a little better.
You're supposed to be the louder one.
Gotcha.
That's why they set us
only
up
in
this
person.
way. Yeah.
So the first thing I was wondering is, and I don't think I've asked anyone this yet. So when you came up with your name, how did you choose between brewery, brewing company?
Gotcha. Good question. Because we felt like we were brewing.
Okay.
And that's where it came
That's
from.
how you fell upon that.
There's like breweries or,
and that is one of the conversations that we had, way back several years ago before we were even thinking seriously about, there was the idea about becoming a brewery, right? Like doing this professionally. And I think, way back when we were just talking about ideas, Midnight Run came up, and then, there was a conversation. Are we going to be brewing? Are we going to be a brewing company? What are we going to do? And I think it was, we were brewing the beer, right? So brewing made sense. And brewing company was like, well, we weren't a company yet. And that's like, adds another word onto Midnight Run Brewing.
So you're planning ahead just in case you get charged by the letter for anything?
Yeah, and you've got something with like the way things roll off the tongue and like the number of words and syllables, right? So that had something to do with it as well.
And brewing just sounded good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Brewing.
Yep. We brew.
So
we make brews.
Does brewing or brewery beers. Or something, does that have to be in the name of a brewery?
I don't think so.
Honestly, I don't know. It seems like it was just like
logical.
Yesterday when we filled all that stuff out. I think it just makes sense from a business standpoint. Like you want people to know that you're a brewery when they're seeking you out. So it makes sense to put it in there, but I don't know that it's necessary. I mean, which is why there's no real rule about whether it's brewing company, provisions. I guess you could really call yourself
brewing provisions.
Fine liquids.
Company.
Fine liquids, yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's right. Captain Lawrence's Finest Liquid. Yeah, they don't have brewing.
Right.
So I guess it's not a law.
Right.
Well, I'm glad we talked through this.
Right.
Yeah.
Where did the name Midnight Run come from?
I'll let Richard. he was the one that kind of came up with it.
It's just kind of an ode to bootlegging, We kind of got our start brewing at midnight. It was our midnight run.
Yep. Every time we'd brew, we'd be, we had day jobs, still do have day jobs, and we'd be brewing after we got off work. And as people that brew beer, even from a home brew level, know that it's pretty time consuming. So we'd start at like 5 or 6, and we'd always finish after about midnight.
After midnight at some point, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, so it'd be like when either of us would be driving home, we'd be on that midnight run home.
Or we'd be bottling a bunch of beer until midnight and loading cases of beer into
unmarked, unlabeled
bottles
of homebrew in the car and just driving home with like cases of beer. And so, from that standpoint, it was kind of like a, Prohibition era feel to it maybe. But also, the style of beer that we're making, the high ABV stuff, and just kind of a throwback to pre-Prohibition or the Prohibition era.
So, Richard, how did you get into brewing?
Well, that's a great question. How to answer that? So, I didn't really like beer for the longest time because my only exposure to beer was Bud Light, Miller Lite, Coors Light, any light beers, Natty Light. I mean, not to take anything away from those beers, but they just were not my thing. And I started working for a Belgian guy who introduced me to Belgian beer, and then a friend of mine started extract brewing, but he introduced me to the fact that yeast created the flavors of banana and clove in the specific beer he was making, and that just really intrigued me. And what I learned from my Belgian counterpart was that I really liked the high gravity beers. The first beer I ever had was a Delirium Tremens, or the first real beer I ever had.
And that's a strong one.
Tell me about the story about that first beer, because that's the one that we tell in the tasting room.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was working. I was going through culinary school and finishing up, and I was doing an externship with a Belgian chef in Olney, Maryland. This guy Bernard at Le Mannequin P, and he'd have us go out. We'd do prep, but then we'd go out and sit in the dining room and go over the menu and what we were doing for our specials and go over with the waitstaff and so on. And he'd let us have a beer or a glass of wine. And the first time I was there, I said, well, I'll just have a glass of wine because I don't really like beer. And I didn't know the Belgian tradition of brewing at all, And so he looked at me like if he could have killed me right then, he would have. And he's just like, you dumb American, you've just never had a good beer. And I was like, that's true. And so he gave me a Delirium Tremens, and I was like, man, that's beer? And I was hooked right then with like a real strong blonde beer. And so I started like my brewing quest. I would just pick up beers at the beer store, and anything that was 8% or higher, I would try it. If it was less, I wouldn't.
It was the whole more ingredients means more flavor,
exactly.
More alcohol.
That's what
content.
I took away from it. Yeah, was that it took more ingredients to make it higher alcohol. Therefore, it would be a more dynamic flavor. That was just my mindset at that age going into it.
And then he developed an equation that the AFAC, right?
Yeah, which I would quantify the value of that beer purchase based on its alcohol and volume
and cost. Yeah.
It's pretty easy though. It's like a squared plus, force equals mass times acceleration is basically that.
Right. Yep.
So you mentioned culinary school. You're also a chef, correct?
Once upon a time.
Oh, you no longer are? I thought you.
No.
Oh, I don't know.
No, my wife and I run a jewelry business from our house. Aaron Pelicano Jewelry, just to give a shout out.
Oh, look at the one time you're going to actually lean into the mic so everyone hears you.
There we go. I'll put that down.
Plug.
Yeah, but that it's a wonderful business, and it affords me the ability, or both of us, to work from home, and allows me the freedom to do the brewery. Yeah. Exactly.
What kind of
So I cooked for a long time though. I mean, for about 10 years, I guess I cooked. I did catering. I got out of restaurants. I did mostly catering, because that's kind of what I did when I was in culinary school, was catering in Baltimore for the Maryland Catering Consortium. Zephyr and Gold, to give another shout out to some old peeps.
Look at that. The only time he clearly talks into the mic is when he wants to plug something.
That's
shameless. And then he's going to break it.
I'm hand talking.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, and we did a lot of fun things in Baltimore. But
the culinary stuff also led you to doing the high end appliances, right? Which led.
Well, I got hired to be the corporate chef for a company where we did kitchen remodels. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you had the hours weren't the most ideal in that.
Correct. Yeah. One thing led to another.
Right.
The jewelry business took off, and
do you want the raspberry?
Yeah, let's do something new.
Well, let's while we're getting the raspberry out, why don't you, since you love talking on the mic and you're good at it, Richard, tell us about white sexual chocolate.
Okay,
which we started out with.
I really enjoy using.
And as a side note, Monica Pierce is having a bottling party right now where they're all listening to us live. So if you could talk into closely so that they can hear your words, words of wisdom.
So
Richard.
there's people listening. That makes me want to be quiet. All right. No. Anyway, so I like chocolate. I like coffee. I like some of these darker flavors, and I like to put them in big, strong blonde beers, because I feel like that way the chocolate or the coffee or whatever the flavor is allowed to come through without contradicting or competing against the chocolate from the malts or the roast character from the malts.
And with hearing the name, although I guess white kind of negates that. My thought is always that it's some sort of stout, so like maybe it's just a
right.
I really liked white sexual chocolate, but raspberry blows it away.
Well,
This beer identifies as a stout.
There's a kind of a mind. I'm not supposed to curse, but like a mind blowing effect. Yeah,
okay.
trick. Brewing a beer that has that chocolate or that coffee flavor or aspects of things you would look for in a stout or a porter, but you're getting them in a blonde beer. It has, and there's an additional effect there because it's like, whoa, that like those flavors can come through in a beer that's light. And Richard, he also kind of introduced me to the idea that, people are more prone, I feel like, to drink a beer that's lighter in color just because it's more
automatically,
approachable.
yeah. Well, and people even will say that they don't like Guinness because it's too heavy.
Right, exactly.
It's the exact,
4%,
right.
3.5%,
It's the exact
whatever.
opposite,
Right,
but
right.
because it looks thick and
Right. Because just like with food, you drink with your eyes as much as you eat with your eyes, and
your nose, right?
right,
Sensory,
for
it's
sure.
all-
But I would. We like dark beers. We like all strong beers. But if I go to pour someone a beer in my family, for instance, and I pour it out and it's like oil, bubbling up, they're thinking immediately of all the ways they're not going to like it. There's like 1 out of 10 maybe thinks of all the ways they're going to enjoy that beer, but the other 9 are thinking, I'm not going to like that because it's too bitter, it's too heavy, it's too thick, it's too whatever. But if I take some similar flavors and put them into a very strong beer, obviously 11% is not a light beer, but has those flavors. I pour that beer out and you see that light color, you think of all the ways you're going to like that beer. And then when you smell the chocolate or the coffee or whatever the flavor is, then you're like, man, that's amazing. How's that even in that beer?
It's kind of crazy though how much the raspberry comes through on this. It's like
huge. It's great
a
because I
massive
love
difference. Yeah.
What kind of raspberry did you use?
We just use frozen raspberries.
Okay, I was going to say there's definitely real raspberries in there because there's enough of a change in color that you could tell.
Oh yeah, you can see the pink and it's got a little tang from the sour from the raspberry.
Did you use any beaver excretion?
No,
in it? You could have enhanced the flavor, the raspberry flavor.
Castoreum.
Yeah.
No beaver ingredients used in this one.
An interesting idea though, for sure.
Yeah, but so the
Keith and
the
Nick
frozen,
can help you out with that.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah. I saw that they won.
We'll let them brew that beer.
The prize, yeah.
We'll brew our beers.
But so frozen fruit, we use it because the freezing process bursts cell walls naturally. So
it enhances the flavor transfer a little more.
Yeah,
It's a little
exactly.
quicker.
Right,
Yeah.
it's a little quicker and complete, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of how we've always done it. So we did it with this, and it turned out pretty well.
That, or we'll use dried fruits in the last 10 minutes of a brew. Like for the Morning Star, for example, we put dried apricots in that one.
Right.
That sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
What style's that?
That was a big Belgian golden quadruple, basically. We had that on when we first opened up.
Yep. That was
It
one of the
was
first
a
5.
13%er.
Yep.
It took me a little while to make it into the one. I kept seeing pictures of how packed it was constantly.
Yes,
Yeah,
it was.
It was good.
Then it was when I did stop by, it was still really packed.
Yeah.
But we waited till it was towards the very end of the night, so it was not 100% packed.
We've been pretty happy with the turnout. I think it's just just kind of how the craft brewing industry is. People are open to it, and people are seeking out the drinks that they like. Rather than going to a bar, they're seeking out their local craft brewery, and there's plenty of options in Frederick now. So
if
people
you can drink local, why not? Right?
Yeah,
Most
exactly.
people feel like that, right? Yeah.
support local.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like that little area you're in too is just going to continually grow and help you guys. There's just more and more destination type places opening that are going to drive traffic to you.
Right. Yeah. I think that whole stretch of East Street kind of Family Meal was probably the first big, restaurant really to open up there. But now that, we signed our lease in December of 2016, and that shopping center was 25% occupied. It was empty. We signed, it took us 11 months to open. In those 11 months, that thing filled up. We got Oscars in there now. There's like a tattoo shop, and the R&R workshop next to us, and it's just kind of filled out, and everything seems to be growing towards that Warman's Mill area down East Street. I mean, I know there's East Street Rising and everything going on. It's a great part of Frederick that's like accessible.
Warman's Mill is growing huge.
Yep. Yeah, get your ass, get closer to the mic.
Right. All right, let's drink some smoked beer.
No. So we now that we'll give Richard a little break. Brent, how did you get into brewing?
Well, Richard and I mean, we've been longtime family friends. You know, his wife is longtime friends with my older sister. His wife's mom and my mom are like good friends, and so there's a lot of ties actually. Like his younger sister is best friends with one of my other older sisters.
It's very
so basically you're stuck with each other.
I consider him a brother. You know,
even
it's like,
so. My wife's grandmother did modeling with his grandmother.
Woodward and Lothrop back in the day. Hashtag Woodies.
Yeah, right. So this is a long time coming.
Yeah, so anyways, about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, I was up visiting my mom in Frederick, and we were out at Wine Kitchen. I ran into Richard and his wife, and we were, having a beer, catching up. He's like, yeah, man, I've been brewing. Like, you should come over and brew with me. I'm like, yeah, that sounds really interesting. And so I went over, and I think it was we were
bottling
beer,
that night. Yeah, exactly.
Which is good. I mean, because brewing would have sucked if my first introduction into it was brewing. Like, that would have sucked. But we were bottling.
Bottling
nights were always the best.
Many beers.
Yeah, it's easier. You're filling beer and you're sampling finished beer. But so kind of got into it then, and then it was kind of just like got really intrigued into brewing. Started learning about it. Like brewed with Richard and got into just the whole process. I mean, it was like pretty much constantly from then on. We were like every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks or something like that, like doing something.
Yeah, about every 2 weeks we were doing something beer related.
Yeah. So
and we were brewing constantly. I mean,
yeah,
we started. I mean, because we did we were brewing on a 15-gallon system for a while.
10. I mean, we were doing 10-gallon batches initially, 5-gallon batches, and then 10-gallon batches.
We were doing 10-gallon was the smallest, and then 15-gallon, and then we moved to a 1-barrel system.
I mean, so we were doing, all kinds of stuff pretty much when we started. But so, anyways, I kind of got involved with him in the homebrewing, and just like it continued to snowball, and we would continue to start brewing more beer, increase our volume sizes. And so he comes at it obviously from the chef side, but I'm a mechanical engineer by degree, so I was intrigued by the process side of brewing. And I was always like, hey, well, like if you did this differently, like it would, improve your efficiency, or it would help in cutting time down. And, I got into like the brewing science as far as like the equipment side of things, and started kind of bringing that to the equation. And then eventually we were brewing 1-barrel beer. Like, I don't know how it happened that we have a brewery now. Like, it just seems like
you accidentally opened a brewery.
Yeah, exactly. We accidentally.
We were basically forced into it. It's the only way to grow bigger.
We have too much beer here. We need to sell it.
The only way to brew more beer.
Yeah, the only way to brew more beer is to get licensed to do it. So that's more or less how I got involved. And it was a gradual
loved us
process.
For the longest time because we had just tons of beer.
Yeah,
tons of beer.
Sharing beer with family and friends, and a lot of the recipes that we're brewing now, we've been brewing for like 5 or 6 years and trying to
or longer. Some are original homebrew recipes from 12 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why I had to stop homebrewing. I don't have any friends to share with, so I just had tons of beer.
You just have to drink it faster.
Yeah, I couldn't keep up.
All right, but yeah, so that's kind of.
We didn't really have that problem too much.
Well, yeah, you like drinking beer too, same as I do. So.
Correct.
So where are you guys on tap anywhere, or is it all just through the?
Everything
all through the tap room.
Yeah, everything is through our tasting room. We're 3 barrels, so every time we do a batch, we have 6 kegs out of it. So it just doesn't make sense for us right now with our size to distribute. I mean, I know there's some effect there as like getting our name out into different establishments, and we've had plenty of people approach us about wanting to put our beer on. But right now it's just something that we're trying to keep in house.
You know, where a really good place to have your beer on tap would be
Roasthouse.
Yes, Roasthouse Pub would be a great place.
The sponsor.
Yes.
I do agree. If it went somewhere, it would probably be there.
And I think that we've talked about it. Like, if we have a short list of like where we would want beer to go.
I would say Roasthouse should be at the top.
It is. It's definitely in the top.
And then another cool thing you could do is their mom's spaghetti night. Tonight.
Oh man, spaghetti is not my thing. Pasta's like a lot of filler. My wife loves pasta. She's Italian,
really has
so
very little. It really has very.
You gotta pick a better. Is there a better night? Is there like roast beef night or something?
Yeah.
Steak night.
All right. Well, anyway,
lobster
for
nights.
people who do like spaghetti, tonight's mom's spaghetti dinner is between Full Tilt Brewing and Diamondback Brewing. So see if you did that, you could battle it out with. And you're both pretty big dudes.
Competition.
Intimidation could play a big part in the voting process. If you just walk in,
so if we
Richard, you could just go stand over top of the tables as they're voting. Like, hey, you preferred Midnight Run, right?
You like that strong beer. You like this?
And then February 27th is the RJ Rockers beer dinner. Have you ever been to a beer dinner there?
No, I've heard about them. Though,
they're amazing. They're so good. It is an obscene amount of food in a good way.
Yeah.
So like go hungry,
right?
Because it's 5 courses paired with 5 beers, and it
does sound good. I wish I could get out more often. I just don't have the time.
It's kind of funny. Roasthouse, like in the process for starting the brewery, Roasthouse was like our destination for meetings because
cool.
we knew that they were going to have like the best beer on draft
and their French dip.
The French dip is good.
Yeah. I mean, the Brussels sprouts are money too. The little house salad that they get with all that stuff.
That stuff's a little bit green, but
yeah. But I'm just.
I like the beef.
It's like your team Colin. He refuses to eat anything that's green. Also,
I don't mind green stuff, but.
But anyways, yeah,
we
would meet there and go through business plan stuff and like just talk through the whole process. But it was our destination for a little while.
Cool. Well, then thank you for Roasthouse Pub for supporting the podcast and helping Midnight Run to open.
Exactly.
And they'll be sure to get you some beer soon.
As soon as we start distributing, if we start distributing, I guess. But yeah.
And we like Mad Max.
Yeah, oh yeah. Max is the man.
Or Jesus.
Yeah.
He is a little Jesus looking right now.
For sure. Oh, I mean, it's straight out of The Walking Dead.
Oh, yeah. Actually, if you go with the character, 100%. Yeah. All right, what do we have next? Let's try.
All right, so we got
double penetration, tempo, the smoke beer, and Dark Charlie.
Let's do your session IPA, tempo.
Do you like smoked beer?
He likes smoked beer, yeah.
So
do you want that instead? You guys can drink that.
Yeah, you can drink whatever you want.
So we'll try that next, and then we'll force the smoke on.
So, weighing in at 7%.
Yeah, 7%. It's 100% hopped with Citra.
It smells amazing, like most beers made with Citra.
Yeah,
I know that is pretty much a winner. That hop.
So we have this series of beer called
that is good.
The Clockwork series of beer, which is a series of kind of quickly turned around hoppy beers. Everybody wants fresh hoppy.
Everyone wants the cloud.
Fresh hop beers, cloudy beers. I mean, it's not necessarily every beer needs to be cloudy, but it's really just like an experimentation in hoppy beers, and which everyone's kind of doing it.
I read somewhere if it's not hazy, it doesn't taste good.
Yeah, I don't agree with that at all.
We started out our 2 IPAs, Time Loop and Clockwork. They were both brilliant. When I say brilliant, they were both crystal clear beers, and they tasted pretty good.
Very hoppy.
And they were pretty well reviewed. People have been asking us about when Time Loop's coming back, and it'll be
that was a really good one.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
So I think
some of what hangs in the haze is good, and some of what hangs in it is not good.
Well, I think there's something to the biotransformation, right? And the hot polyphenols attaching to proteins. I think
those big words you're using, Mr. Engineer.
Yeah. Well, he knows them too. I mean, he's the one that's read all about it. But so, anyways, the Clockwork series is going to be just a series of IPAs where we're going to be constantly working with new hops, different brewing styles, ingredients, potentially different
low
yeast.
bitterness hops. Low bitterness beers.
Right. Yeah. I mean, not every IPA that we're going to make, but I mean, the majority of the beers that we're going to make are going to be well balanced as far as hop flavor, having some malt character to them. I think the New England style obviously has a level of sweetness to it that kind of balances out the hop bitterness and the hop flavor. So, and that's kind of what people are drinking right now. That's like the big thing, right? Is that style of beer, but that's not what drove us to make this style. I mean, we were interested in flavor forward beers, right? Whether that's malt, whether that's chocolate, whether that's oak, whether that's smoke, whether that's hop flavor and aroma. I mean, that's kind of what drives the production of all of these, or the development of all of our beer recipes, and that's kind of what has led us to this Clockwork series and experimentation with different hops and techniques, and
and just try and turn around a super fresh, super hoppy beer.
Right. Yep.
2 weeks is our goal for those beers.
Yeah.
From brew day to keg is 2 weeks.
This beer came out.
Sometimes it's 3 weeks, but our goal is to get them done.
We released this last weekend or the weekend before?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, and when we released it, it was brewed 2 weeks before we.
So how are you able to turn them around that quickly without them tasting too green or not?
Well, I mean, a lot of primary fermentation is done in the first few days, and then it's cleaning up for a couple more days after that, and you're dry hopping during that time. I mean,
I think green.
It's not that for these beers. I don't think the green character comes through as much because of the whole process jamming it full of hops.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, if we were to try and turn around a super malty beer in 2 weeks, like a big 12% malt forward beer, we would not be able to turn around because those green flavors would be prevalent. It would be sharper for sure. But this is, they're IPAs, right? I mean, they're somewhat bitter. Clearly the look does not matter. Right, I mean, like when I started brewing,
because everyone wants this now.
It's hazy, right? Exactly. But when I started, if I were to turn this beer into somebody to drink, they would be like, "How did you screw that beer up?"
Yep. Is it infected?
Exactly. What is wrong with that beer? That would be the first thing, right? But now that's the style. So.
But yeah, the whole green aspect of it. I think hoppy beers, it's as fresh as you can get it, right? Is because you want to retain that hop flavor and that hop aroma, which you want to avoid the effects of oxidation, which, who knows how, obviously the larger the brewery you are, the easier it is to kind of reduce the effects of oxygen on beer, and we're doing everything we can to do it on our scale, so we want to get that beer out as quickly as possible so that hop flavor and the hop aroma are still very present. I mean, this beer in 4 weeks or 6 weeks may be significantly different than what it is right now.
I would say if there is a downside to this style of beers, is that how quickly they degrade.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And it's not actually, it's not even a degradation like to the point where it's bad. It's just the change is so different. So if you loved it when you first tasted it, it might not taste quite as good.
Right. Or it could taste better because some of the sharpness has fallen out of the beer, along with some of the particulate.
So Miles Radio Tyler Pell would like to know if you guys have trouble keeping up with the supply with brewing at such a small
We were
production.
definitely at first, and
we finally caught up.
Yeah.
I mean, so the way we did our production was we got licensed, and we brewed all the beer that we needed for opening, which was we brewed 12 barrels of beer. We turned that into the Morning Star, White Sexual Chocolate, 2 barrels of that, 1 barrel of Blondie, Clockwork, and Time Loop. And once we brewed those, we stopped brewing for almost 2 months, probably.
No.
6 weeks?
No.
4 weeks?
Maybe like a couple
It was
weeks.
definitely-
we had brewed
no,
that
it was-
beer, got it straight, and then we had started formulating recipes for the next beer, opened,
But it was
sold a bunch of beer. And
definitely-
then, so we were about a month behind on brewing.
It was definitely 4 weeks or so. Because we were concentrating on our tasting room wasn't finished yet. We had beer, tasting room wasn't finished. We opened without
That's true.
tables.
We did have to put a lot
had
of time into that.
Paint. We had to get our, like, literally, we had all this beer. We didn't have our tap set up. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we had to do to get our tasting room ready to open. Then we opened, and then we started selling beer, and then beer started going, and we were like, oh shit, we should probably start brewing again. So, you know, we finally are now getting kind of on top of that, and we've built up. We've got, as of tonight, we'll have 8 taps filled, we have 8 taps with room.
So that'll be
to
the first
expand to
time
10.
that we have all.
So this will be the
all
first.
8 filled.
Tonight will be the first time we have all 8 filled with beers. And we're going to just kind of slowly keep up with that. And our intention is to never have beers that we're keeping on full time. I mean, we have beers that are like our, you know, more popular beers, but like if
we'll kind of have styles or types of beers that we keep on. Like we'll always have a couple fresh hoppy joints. We'll always have a couple dark beers. We'll always have, you know, 3 big strong blonde beers.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, we did get to a point where we run out of beers. I mean, there was a night, it was a Saturday where we had 3 beers on tap, and we're like, oh, we gotta
we need to brew something.
We need these beers to
Well,
be ready.
we had already been brewing by that point. I mean, we had started getting back on top of things. But again, this is, you know, none of this is our full-time job. I mean, we all literally have other jobs to do. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're doing this as all of our side projects.
Where'd that tempo go?
That's right here. You want some more?
Yeah.
I thought you said
Hiding
you
it
wanted
from me.
smoked beer.
I think I said the last thing I want is the smoke. I mean, we'll try it.
Man, the last thing you want. This might be the last time I come on this show.
Don't worry, I'll come
But
on. If Richard
good.
doesn't want to come on. Do you want more of this?
Nah, I want something else.
All right.
Let's open some darkness.
But yeah. So hey, we're getting back on top of it, and we're getting kind of in a rhythm. I mean, we've only been open for 3 months now, so it's been it's a learning curve, you know, with anything, especially in a new business. You know, we're not just brewing beer anymore. We're like having to deal with operating a tasting room and you know, dealing with cleaning glasses and figuring out how to do that. And now, man, watch that.
This is the last time you're on.
Yeah, Rich will be kicked off.
Can I get a hanging mic next time?
There's a whole bunch of things that you don't necessarily think about when you're getting into it. It's not just like, we're brewing beer, which now we're finally getting back to that point where we are just brewing beer, and we're concentrating on that, and we're concentrating on getting it on tap. And we're finally starting to, you know, talk to people about coming in and helping us serve the beer, so we're not also having to serve the beer full time, where we can kind of split our concentrations a little bit. But
what has been the most difficult aspect of opening a brewery?
Oh man, it's not easy. There's been zero part of it.
And no one's been in here and said it was.
Right.
There's been no part of it that's easy.
It's like what is the easiest or the worst part?
What was the hardest?
They're all. It's like,
what was the biggest challenge?
All for the hardest.
Yeah.
I mean, like licensing was what it was.
Yep.
Building, you know, cutting concrete.
Right. I would say that for us, we did everything ourselves, right? Like we were not backed. We didn't have that much capital, so we raised what we needed to raise to kind of
like
get us to
ourselves.
opening.
Each of us came with some money, and that was what we did.
So we did the whole. I mean, we gutted our space. We like took drop ceiling out. We, you know, had the electrical all redone, the plumbing all redone. I mean, obviously we hired contractors to do some of that stuff, but the majority of the hands-on. I mean, we were cutting concrete and pouring concrete
and removing concrete.
So it was 11 months. I mean, there was from December 2016 up until we opened, it was nonstop. I mean, 4 or 5 nights a week, like just 6-8 hours a night, weekends just spent in there, like trying to get things up and running. And I don't know. I mean, honestly, the licensing part of it ended up being a little bit easier than I thought it was. Like, we got our TTB license in like 3 or 4 months, where the people told you, it could be 7, it could be 9.
Right.
You know, we actually were licensed to brew before we were ready to brew, and a lot of that was because we did everything ourselves as far as the build out goes. But you know, I think it's really just kind of trying to balance everything: the build out, the brewery, and then serving it. I mean, like brewing the beer was fine. I mean, we built a system, 3-barrel system, which was like 3 times bigger than what we were doing in his garage. And so we didn't have much issue brewing the beer. I mean, we weren't out of our comfort zone, which is what we intended. Like we didn't want to go 7 barrels or 10 barrels and kind of take that capital risk and also like be in a totally different kind of brewing situation.
Right. Do you have room there where when you need to go to a bigger brew house, you'll be able to fit it there? Will you?
Yeah. Cool. I mean, I think we could probably squeeze 10 barrels in there.
Okay.
We would have to figure things out, obviously, but we got enough space. I mean, so our tasting room is the front third of the building, and we got 2/3 in the back. But yeah, so it's really just a balance of taking on all of the construction cost and then brewing the beer. But I think managing the tasting room and serving the beer and kind of keeping up with all the little things that you don't think about, like a sign. I mean, we still don't have a lighted sign above our place. We don't have decals in our window. Like there's just there's just like so many
despite it being difficult
things
to find you, it's still busy.
Yeah.
Luckily, people are still finding us.
Yeah. I mean,
so that was a question I just thought of. What do you attribute like the buzz that you guys had right off the bat to?
Well, we went to a few festivals.
Do you think that was the main?
For
like,
sure. I mean, we're doing the Maryland Craft Beer Festival a couple years in a row was huge, and then really, I mean, we gave a lot of beer to our friends and family, and we're like, here, try this, give it to your friends, have them try it, let us know what you think about it. So we had a good following just from people we knew.
Yep.
And because I would say, like in this area, the amount of people that knew about Midnight Run and were waiting for Midnight Run to open, there's like tons of people.
We're super thankful for that.
Well, I think word of mouth has, obviously huge appeal, but also the Craft Beer Festival. I mean, for 2 years we were at the Craft Beer Festival. We were actually Brewers Association of Maryland.
So this year you'll be able to graduate from the brewery and planning tent.
Right.
Absolutely, Kevin Addix has been a huge help. And
for sure.
I mean, we attended a seminar, several seminars when we were starting to open this, just about the Brewers Association put on about like the steps you need to take to open. And so we met Kevin Addix through that. And, through that process, I got to be comfortable emailing Kevin, and I emailed him and say, hey, is there any way that we could serve our beer at the Craft Beer Festival with, even though we're not licensed? And I was like, I know Foam has done things like this where they've gotten permits, whatever, to sell their beer. And he was like, no one's ever asked that of us, but, we'll look into it. And the Brewers Association, because of our request, went and investigated and pulled the necessary permit that would allow breweries like us to serve beer. And they turned our request into this, like, breweries and planning tent. So it was pretty cool that they definitely that they set that all up and allowed us to serve and allowed other breweries like Cushwa, which is now very big, Steinhardt, and
Checker Spot was in
Checker
there.
Spot. I mean, it's been pretty cool. So this year we'll actually be a licensed brewery, but the Craft Beer Festival is huge for us. And I think also we're doing imperial beers, and that's kind of our focus. So there's some people might not like it. Some people may see that as like, oh, this is cool. Let me try this. I haven't had these kind of beers before. So I think there's a little bit of uniqueness there that might be driving.
Yeah, we're just not brewing what everyone else is brewing necessarily. We're brewing what we want to drink and what we think will be fun to drink, and that's basically what we're making.
It's amazing for the number of breweries in our tiny little town, how different all of you are.
Mm-hmm.
Right, yeah. Everyone's doing different things, and there's
people using different yeasts and just have a different approach to brewing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeast, beer style, approach to brewing. It's pretty cool that everybody is doing something slightly different, and craft beer drinkers like it all. So that's good for all of us.
And where do you hide all that alcohol?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the sexual chocolate ones. They're what 11%.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah,
they
Morningstar's
taste like
13,
there is no alcohol in them.
Just using Just yeast selection is a big part of that, and temperature control is also a big part.
I mean, because you try some strong beers and it's just so boozy, it's unbearable to drink. But
well, we're trying to create ethanol primarily. I mean, there's still some, secondary alcohols produced that give you the harsher warming characteristics, but we try and limit that as much as we can.
I mean, I feel like some breweries have that alcohol character to let people know that it's a strong beer. Maybe not. I don't know. But I know for us, yeah, like he said, yeast strain, health of the yeast, the amount that we're pitching, the temperature that we're fermenting at. And like I was saying before, we've been brewing these beers for years. I mean, we've definitely had batches of beer that have turned out.
Oh, yeah, that tastes like a rocket fuel for sure.
So that kind of stuff is we've been honing in. Oh, man, he's doing it.
Oh. But one of our things is to brew a balanced beer. That's the trick. We want the tongue-derived taste sensations to be balanced. Because if I can keep the bitterness, sweetness, saltiness, sourness, umami-ness, all those in check, then it allows the aromatics to come through.
Is umami-ness a word?
Mm-mm.
Now it is.
Umami is a word. I don't know about umami-ness.
Well, that was a beer that we
well, if we've learned anything from me making Frederick the craft beer capital of the East Coast, if you say anything enough times, it becomes true. So
I've heard that.
Well,
a lot of people have been like,
yeah,
this guy. I heard this guy that said that Frederick, Maryland is the craft beer.
Umami-ness. No, but there's even like other like
so
Japanese.
Much like a beer I'm not gonna like.
Man,
just don't tell the people.
Well, I'm sure it's amazing if you like a smoked beer.
But look how brilliant, like
it is a beautiful beer.
Yeah, like.
I love it.
I don't even want to try it.
It's like a campfire punched you in the face.
Well, the last thing I want to
had like Stockholm syndrome and you fell in love with it, and then it starts to taste like bacon.
Who's in charge of your marketing?
Thankfully not Richard.
I was just going to say, if it's Richard, you may want to rethink that assignment.
Good. It is like a punch in the face of a campfire.
This is definitely our most polarizing beer because there are people that, like Richard, love smoked beer. And there are people.
I don't hate it nearly as much as I was expecting to.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But there are people that are like don't like, and it's the craziest thing because there are people that come in and have it. They're like, man, I usually don't like smoked beer, but I really like this beer. And then there are people that are like, I usually like smoked beer, but I don't like this beer. And then it's just crazy. It's
a smoky beer. I usually
hate smoked beers, and I just dislike this one.
That's good.
All right.
We'll take that as a positive. On your scale,
it's on
the negative.
Yes. Yeah. I love this beer. This is one of the reasons I brew is to make this beer.
Yeah. So that's another kind of thing. Like besides I just touched the cord again. That was my fault. Besides the whole chef aspect and the engineer aspect, we both have like similar. Obviously, it's like a Venn diagram kind of thing of our flavor, what we like. Like Richard loves smoke and oak, and I'm like huge. Like I love IPAs. So, that like we have a broad range. But we both
like strong beer.
But we both like strong beer.
But he does like weak beer too, or small beer. I mean,
7% small beers.
Yeah, wimps.
Yeah. So
for you babies that don't like that drink alcohol,
it's not a man's drink, but a grown-up's drink, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So that's another thing. I mean, we're trying to appeal to spirit drinkers and wine drinkers and beer drinkers all the same. So we want everybody to come in and taste something that, they could enjoy. And, yeah.
All right. Most important question. Do you prefer pull over or zip up hoodies?
Zip up hoodies for sure.
All right.
No doubt about it.
I kind of like a pull over with the watch.
Yeah, dude.
You're wrong. You're right.
Yeah, I'm right for sure. Because you get hot, right? Zip, you're good.
Yeah,
freshen
but like
up, zip back up, you cold, right?
I can like toss a wrench in that pouch and it's not going anywhere. It's like sitting right there. Whereas if I have pockets, it's like hanging out.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many people.
We all have our reasons.
Yeah,
that's true.
Right. I mean,
Good
you could use a fanny pack for that.
That's true. Or a tool belt.
Tool belt would probably be the most appropriate of.
Right.
You might be a tool if you used a fanny pack.
Why use a tool belt when I got a pullover hoodie though?
There was a brief stint of Nick from Old Mother that he had with wearing fanny packs.
Oh, really?
He said he was going to commit to it, but he gave up pretty quickly.
Yeah. That's pretty harsh.
The fanny pack?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I grew up kind of where that was cool for like a summer, I think. And
are you sure it was cool, or you just were wearing one and you thought it
may
was?
not have been cool. Hey, look, The Rock had one.
Oh, there is that amazing photo of him rocking.
So there is that. He might have, given some justification to the fanny pack. Right. I see the point of it, right? But it's like a purse you wear around your waist.
It's like extra pockets, right? It's like Jinkos were cool too. I mean, Jinkos gave you all the capacity of a fanny pack. And you need to wear something
in your
extra.
back pocket.
That's true. Exactly. And the ability to hide your piece.
You could fit everything in your Oh, man.
Janko.
Yeah.
What is...
And you can skate like a champ in those, though. Give you some flexibility.
Well, that's true.
I never understood how the new skaters came out. I was a skater growing up, so I never understood how the new skaters came out with like tight jeans.
Do you miss Pit Crew?
I do miss Pit Crew. I bought 2 skateboards from them last year.
I was going to go buy my daughter one there, but I waited too long and everything was gone by the time I made it there.
Yeah, they were gone quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, they made that call and then they were out. And that sign was pulled down. It's like, that's great. That was a big Frederick,
20-something years.
Yeah. I was surprised. I mean, they moved and they expanded. And it was crazy. But
that was a bummer.
Well, we'll see what goes into that space. I mean, it's a pretty good space there on East Street.
I want some more tempo now to wash down the
smoke.
Yeah, to get rid of the punch in the face by a campfire and whatever other.
But you might fall in love with it.
I'm trust me, I'm not going to.
Keep drinking it.
I do hate it less than most other smoke beers.
Well, it's 11%, 11.5%. So there's bang for your buck there, so to speak.
So it's worth getting it just for for its score on Richard's equation.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
The
score is high on the smoke factor.
Right.
The flavor factor.
You should. What was your name for that rating system that you had?
The AFAC.
The AFAC, yeah.
You should add that in the list, like IBUs, ABV,
That's
AFAC.
True. I could. There is a literal number that quantifies so.
Which one of our beers makes the most sense financially to purchase?
Probably the White Devil.
Well,
what is your favorite beer that you make?
The smoke.
Okay, so
smoke.
You answered that question wrong.
Cherrywood Grips.
I like
George Burns.
George Burns is the beer we haven't come out with.
Now it seems like you're just yelling words.
Yelling smoked beers that we
you
make.
You wanted him to be the loud one.
Scottish dictator.
Being the loud one. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Tempo.
Tempo is great. I love
Time
this.
Loop. We've got a couple barley wines that we do that we haven't brought out yet called
Samuel L. Jackson.
Samuel L. Jackson. Dark
It'll
Side
get you
barley
drunk.
Wine. Yeah.
That's the name, the subtitle.
There's more to it, but I can't say it here.
I mean, so we've brewed about a dozen of our recipes, and we've got something like 30 beers that we've brewed, and a lot of stuff that we have kind of in waiting. And every time we're kind of brewing in batches of 4 beers. So next round that we're brewing, actually, so coming out, obviously we got white sexual chocolate and raspberry sexual chocolate coming out tonight. We've got the White Devil and the Black Disciple, which are the 2 beers that kind of started Midnight Run. Why don't you talk about those real quick, just the differences in those?
Excuse
After
me.
Get that out of the way.
All right, so the white sexual chocolate? No, what are we talking about? The White Devil and the Black Disciple.
White Devil and Black Disciple, yep.
So they are basically the antithesis of each other. The White Devil is a
antithesis.
Exactly. A super strong, golden strong, possibly a golden quadruple. That's kind of what we call it.
Brewed in the Belgian triple kind of
tradition. A nouveau American version of that.
Yep.
11%, super easy to drink. Definitely can't taste the alcohol in that. And then the Black Disciple, full name Rufus the Black Disciple, is the blackest beer you've ever seen. Is like oil, Texas tea. Mm-hmm. It's got every
Black
dark quality
gold.
you can every dark quality you can imagine. It's got the chocolate, it's got the dark roast, it's got the burnt sugar.
No smoke.
No smoke on that one though.
So those are the next two that'll be coming out. But after that, we'll be bringing out two more IPAs and 2 more kind of malt forward beers. But as far as the beers that we make that I like, I really like the hoppy beers, as I was saying earlier.
So I would say
Time Loop and Tempo are like my thing.
If smoke is a punch in the face from a campfire, Tempo is a warm hug from your favorite blanket.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually enjoyable.
Citra. Well, it depends on flavor.
I see how it is.
I mean, there are plenty of people who like smoke beers.
You like soft drinks. I see how it goes.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
But yeah, I've got a flavor for everything. I think both of us have a flavor for everything. The White Devil I think this batch of White Devil is probably the best that we've brewed. And
it is the White Devil.
It's the White Devil.
All right, Richard, what is your favorite non-Midnight Run beer? One of your favorites.
If I had to pick my absolute favorite, it would be Delirium Tremens, only from just an emotional
value.
standpoint. Yeah, just a great, strong beer, and it kind of started my journey in brewing. But one that I drink a lot is the Golden Monkey. That's one of my favorites for sure.
Another ridiculously strong.
Yeah, strong golden beer. When the season is right, I love Mad Elf. Especially
I have a
some
Wild Elf
older
waiting
versions.
to crack open.
I've got one
And then
of those
I'm
too.
still a sucker for Chimay Blue or Grand Reserve, whatever they call that. I love that beer.
As
That's
much
one of
as
my
he likes
favorites.
smoked beers, Belgian
that's
beers
where
are his thing.
And just the tradition of kind of the true craft of brewing, where it's like for them equal parts arts and science. It's like they're not trying to pigeonhole it into a specific style. They're brewing what they want to drink too. Same as me.
Speaking of Belgians,
Little double penetration.
yeah.
Gotta try it once.
That has that's good. Now, see, I'm not a big fan of Belgian beers, but I really like this.
Man, I should walk off now.
Other than your taste in hoodies, it's not my fault that you have, but
You guys clash on
Yeah.
everything else.
that you fall on the wrong side of everything else.
Yeah, that's true. That's usually how it is, though.
So yeah,
The
this
black
is,
sheep.
Talk about the double real quick after I screw up the. Hopefully, no children. Is FCC involved here?
No.
I didn't even touch anything there.
Stop it.
Oh, Lord. My bad.
I think he has a button he pushes that makes that noise. Makes you think you're hitting
He's
stuff.
reaching.
It's Graham back there with his tricks.
So we'll talk about that one real quick.
Sure. It's just a style I love, a Belgian double. This one is a little more of a Belgian quadruple, but that tends to lend into the Midnight Run way of brewing.
How strong is this?
This one's 11%.
Doesn't taste like it at all. Your beers are ridiculously dangerous.
Yeah, they are dangerous, but it has a good sweetness and a nice kind of banana bread quality to it.
Yeah, it could be like who's that brewery that makes banana bread? Whatever it is, you could market this as a banana bread beer.
But specifically, I love that flavor in beer, and truly, that is one of the flavors that got me into brewing beer. Is when my buddy said, do you taste that banana? And I'm like, yeah. Do you taste that clove? Yeah. And he's like, I didn't put any of those in the beer. Those are fermentation byproducts, and that blew my mind. And ever since then, I've loved the flavors of banana in beer, clove in beer, all the yeast-derived fruit flavors, or just the yeast-derived flavors in general.
So, Brent, your favorite non-Midnight Run beer? Try to stick to Maryland.
Oh, is that what we're supposed to do? My
Yeah,
So-
but you
I blew that
yeah.
big time, for
Well,
sure.
so I
I
think
do
First you
love
do-
Horn Dog. Can I say that real quick? I do love Horn Dog. That's one of my jams.
I mean, I think both of us both have a pretty good
name off Maryland
affinity
beers I like?
for.
I said one. You named one. You're good now.
I do like Big Punisher too. Can I say that again? I'm not a huge hop. I love hoppy beers.
For the person who kept saying they wanted nothing to do with talking on the mic, I believe there's one person in this room I can't get to shut up.
Exactly. Yeah, just give him enough. I mean, give him 6 growlers.
And that's all it takes.
I think. I mean, my favorite Maryland brewery right now actually.
I agree with you though. Big Pun is amazing.
That's a great beer.
Burley Oak right now. I think the IPAs that they're doing are pretty phenomenal. I haven't had that much of them, but what
about the Dreams?
The Dreams. I mean, those are. I'm not a huge sour fan. I've had a few of those, and I like them for what they are. But I'm not a huge sour fan. I mean, the sour and the lactose is like a good mix because it's like sour and sweet. And I know that New England style is like hoppy and sweet, but I've had like their 100 series, which is really
those
good.
Are
good. They've got that fall and seasonal or that fall and spring seasonal that they do. I forget what it's called, but. I don't know. I mean, I feel like every beer I've had from them, that New England style IPA, is like really well done. Like we just had that Lost. I just had their Lost today at lunch, and it was really good. I think they do that style really well. Besides that, Double Duck Pin is phenomenal.
Out right now,
I think. I don't know. Has it been released recently?
It's on its
because it's like
freshly released
every 2 months or 3 months or something.
It's a freshly
like that.
On its fresh release.
So I'll need to pick that up. But that's one of my favorites for sure. And then obviously I love a lot of what the local breweries in Frederick do in Flying Dog. I mean, we've been involved with Flying Dog for the past 4 years with the Junto Society, so we've seen kind of a lot of the stuff that's come through there, and so yeah, I don't know. And also, I mean, non-Maryland like Trogs is I love what they do and the independent brewery that they've become.
Troganator.
And I was just up there a couple weeks ago and saw that the new Fooders and Fooders.
That's right.
That they
did you listen to our episode with them?
I didn't. I listened to. I did listen to them talk about just being the independent brewery, like something online.
Yeah, we went up there 3 weeks ago now, maybe for a few weeks ago, and did an episode with Chris and John Trogner.
Oh, okay. It
took a lot to hold my fanboyism in because I've loved them forever.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that place is just awesome. I just love going up there because the tasting room
is great.
And
their pretzel was amazing.
Yeah,
and just like the way they have it laid out, where you can see kind of like their open fermentation tanks, splashing in, and it's just cool.
And I feel like that's something that Flying Dog could be, but they're just kind of like bound to where they are and bound by the laws of Maryland, like
the regulation.
But.
Will either of you be going down to Annapolis tomorrow?
I wish I had the time to do it.
Unfortunately, today is my day off, and I was planning to go, but usually my day off is Friday, and I was going to go tomorrow, but I can't.
Did I ruin that for you?
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. No. It kind of lined up with, like, my day job schedule.
Yeah.
So, but, yeah, I don't know. Hopefully, Brewers Association, everybody else takes care of it.
Yeah, there's a large group of people from Frederick that are heading down together.
Well, I'm sure. I know Carly and the people at Attaboy there, and Carly and Brian.
Joe Idoni, and
House Cat.
There's a couple people that are testifying, so Frederick will be well represented tomorrow.
Well, that's good. Because Frederick, after all, is
the craft beer capital, brewing capital of the East Coast.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe the world.
Said by the man himself.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll start with the world next.
Hopefully we'll get to the world. We'll get there. We're going to get there.
Hey, it was said, reported by a Frederick News Post reporter that was said by the comptroller at a press conference.
Wow. You've got clout, man. You have true clout.
Truly, anyone that thinks that more regulation is better has never tried to open a business in their life.
Oh, it's appalling what our legislators want to do to, and if you just subtract the word brewery from everything, it would be just so ridiculous. Like that this bologna maker is only allowed to sell so many slices of bologna.
Exactly. Yeah, because why should there be any regulation to limit the amount of beer you sell at your establishment, regardless of your size? If you can sell however much, I mean, good for you. And if you don't, I mean, let the free market.
Or if you want to sell,
there's a very good reason why you shouldn't be allowed to. The large beer companies are behind a lot of distributors in Maryland.
I was waiting for the actual good answer.
There are, I mean, I've shared the links. There's several places that have done a rundown of the Maryland legislators and how much Big Beer has donated to their campaigns over the years. So there's a good reason.
Well,
so
air quotes, good reason.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe in Maryland is, I mean, Loudoun County in Virginia, right? In Pennsylvania, being a craft brewer is like easy. It's, everything's set up for the craft brewer really in those states. It seems like Maryland is the last hope, maybe. To the AB InBev and the lobbyists.
I know, or they're going to end up destroying the craft beer capital of the.
I mean, the fact that they proposed this bill and then they reasoned that the
that's what you asked for
was, this is what we thought you wanted.
Yeah,
we wanted you to reduce the amount of beer we could sell from our tasting rooms.
Ultimately, isn't the reason choice, right? You should have a choice to sell that beer in your place or not, or you should have a choice to use a distributor for your beer or to set up your own distribution network or not, right? I mean, that should be like the choice of the owner of the establishment and the choice of what the free market allows. If people want to pay for your beer at your establishment, right, then that should be their right to do that as well.
I mean, we're 150 to 200. We're a 150 to 200 barrel brewery as we are right now. So we're not directly affected by any of this.
But you
stuff
could
right
be
now.
quick.
But we could be.
If 1052 were to pass, you're not that far away from 500.
There's no room for us to expand.
I mean, you're really close to 500.
It's the same thing
actually
for us with contract brewing. We're not contract brewing. We don't have a plan to do that. We don't want to contract brew. We want to brew. That's kind of like what we like to do. But if someone else wants to do that or needs to do that, that's their right.
And in Maryland, there are several places that rely on it that will be out of business if it passes.
If they're providing a service to a smaller guy or to however that works out, I mean that's great.
Right, exactly. Everybody's business as a brewery is developed differently. We're small right
strategy.
now, and the reason we're small is because we didn't want to take the risk of a huge capital investment into being a large brewery. But that doesn't mean we don't want to grow to be a large brewery. I mean, we want to brew as much beer as we
and there
can
shouldn't be
to
laws that make it unattractive for you to work towards that goal.
Because the fact is, breweries are making jobs for people in the state.
Right, exactly. No law should ever discourage growth.
And we're paying taxes on a good amount of tax on excise tax on the beer that we're making,
exactly.
Sales, not to mention everything else. And we're promoting, in Frederick alone, we're promoting the food truck industry, which didn't exist really until breweries existed. More breweries existed in Frederick.
Outside of a large city, there really wasn't a need for a food truck until.
So, I know the state of Maryland down in Annapolis, or in Washington, they don't necessarily see all that, but they should, because Frederick is the new
craft beer capital of the East Coast.
Absolutely.
Maybe I should get hats made that say that.
Yeah, you probably should.
Or at least a shirt or something.
We could be wearing them during the.
All right, you may not have been open long enough yet to have a good answer to this, but what is the worst, most ridiculous review that you've ever received?
Oh, I can tell you that one. It was on Cherrywood Griffs, and someone, I should pull out my phone and call him out by name, wrote yuck with 1 star.
Well, beer people on
I did not
there.
appreciate that at all. And in fact, there was another person who gave us 2.5 stars on White Sexual Chocolate just 2 days ago. And dude, there's 0 chance you had drank White Sexual Chocolate 2 days ago.
I
That's
can't wait
zippy chance.
I can't wait to go on Untapped and rate smoke.
That's the thing.
I know where you are though, man. So.
No, I mean the thing about beer reviews is like people like what they like and they don't like what they don't like, and you know you can't help that. I mean, there's nothing we can do about it. We can just make the best beer that we can make and the beer that we want to make. I mean, that smoked beer is exactly what you intended to make that.
It's less smoky than I wanted a 100% version of that.
Yeah.
Just so you know, people, that is a 50% version of the original intention.
I mean, and
real quick, hold on. What I like also on Untapped, for the people who on tap, I love it when, if it's not your style of beer, you just check it in and then you don't rate it. Well, if it's your style of beer and you rate it bad, I dig that, because that, like, you don't like that kind of, you like that style, but you don't like that beer. I dig that. But if you don't like the style, just check it in and don't rate it.
And that's the thing you can't control on Untapped is like when people are rating beers and it's not necessarily things that they like, but maybe it's a well-made beer. And people that like that style,
is Smoke the name of it?
No, it's called Cherrywood Grips.
Yeah. So that I'm finding that guy because that's my soulmate.
But it's like I don't go on and judge hot pepper beers. Otherwise all of them would get like 0 stars, because hot pepper beers are the worst in my opinion. But that's my opinion, and I know that. That was Brent. I know that, I don't even bother judging that beer because I know I don't like that to start. Yeah, you can't help the size 14 on this guy.
But yeah, I mean, we got to take ratings with a grain of salt, man. I mean, when we're at the level that we are now, I mean, it doesn't make sense, and it's not helpful for us to like take things personal, really. And we understand that we're appealing to more people now. We're selling beer to pretty much anybody who wants to come drink it. So we know that there are going to be people that are coming in that don't like certain beers, and people are going to be having flights, and they're not going to like some. They're going to really like some, and that's just the way things are. Not everybody's going to like every beer that we make, and that's just kind of what not the realization that we have come to, but it's the reality of the situation that we're in.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's just what every brewery deals with. And I mean, for the most part, I think we've been pretty well reviewed on Untapped. And I think that
I forget what they say. Is it assholes are like opinions, or opinions are like assholes? I forget which one. But anyways.
Both. Either way, it's like everyone's got one. Is what the word is. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, some people love us, and there have definitely been a few people that have hated us, and but for the most part, I mean, we've been well reviewed. I think there's no arguing that. I mean, I think that
most of you get good reviews, and now that we're talking about it, I'm sure we're gonna get a bombardment of negative reviews. But anyways.
Yeah, I don't even like talking about it. I don't even like looking at it. I just want to make the beer and like have the beer. Like I don't even want to check Untapped.
I can't help but
check Facebook, and I just want to make the beer that we want to make, and I just want to give people a good experience when they come into the tasting room, and be nice and serve people beer, and that's pretty much what we want to do.
Yeah, ultimately that's the end of it. We're gonna make the beer we want to make, regardless of what someone says about it, anyways.
Yeah.
Well, Brent, thank you so much for coming out. You're welcome back anytime.
Yeah.
Richard, you were definitely here. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening.
Chris,
Cheers.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Cheers.